And welcome on back, everyone, to another episode of Streaming with the Mouse. Today we're going to be talking about Kenobi, Episode 3. Cam is going to complain to me that it's called Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 3. But get ready, and you're listening to Streaming with the Mouse. And welcome on back, everyone, to episode 127 of Streaming with the Mouse. My name is Clifton Paul Robinson, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, my co-pilot, there's too many great pairs to pick from. Here's a good one for today's episode only. The Quinlan Vos to my Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Beautiful.
Cam, how are you doing?
Doing great. This was another awesome episode. I'm really digging this show. And I'm excited to talk about this one. I like my number one talking point is something I'm really passionate about, so I'm excited to talk about that one.
I'm excited. But yes, we'll be talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 3. I agree. Great episode. People are now going down insane rabbit holes because there are tons of... The thing with Kenobi is there are tons of things casted, tons of people casted that don't have their names associated to it. And there is a man that has been casted that looks what a live-action Quinlan Vos could look like. And people are like, oh my god. My running theory, I don't know if you agree with this or not, my running theory is Quinlan Vos saved Grogu. Especially because she said he helps transport and secure younglings throughout. So that's my running theory.
I think this is gonna be like the Mandalorian verse. Like I think Mandalorian is gonna somehow tie into this somehow.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope we get some answers. I wouldn't mind seeing the Mandalorian get tied in, like seeing Quinlan Vos mention Grogu to Obi-Wan. That would be fine to me. Like, oh yeah, that's the first one I saved, and I felt like I had to do it after.
Before we get to news, can I make a prediction about Mandalorian season 3, just so it's like on record on this podcast in June 2022 before it comes out next February?
Well, I'll make one then also too, because I have a few. Let's hear it.
I heard that an upcoming Star Wars project for Disney Plus is going to make theme park fans excited. I think that the Mandalorian is part of it's going to take place in Batuu, which is the setting of Galaxy's Edge.
Oh.
And that would be sick because one of the news from Guardians of the Galaxy, my god, Star Wars Celebration was that Boba, Fennec Shan, Grogu, and Din Djarin are all going to be walk-around characters in Batuu. So that would be really cool if that takes place. So I want to put that prediction in there that's what's going to happen now, even though we're not talking about Mandalorian today.
That would be cool. I wouldn't be surprised if it was... I didn't know that they were going to be walk-around characters. That is very cool. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an Andor.
Yeah, that would be...
Because Andor, when does Batuu take place? After Return? No, during the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, between between episode 8 and episode 9, but these characters are walking around separately just in the marketplace area where there's no like real story tie there, so that's why they can get away with it.
That makes sense. Cool. My prediction is not as fun. Mine is, we've pretty much been told Bo-Katan's gonna be the villain, or a antagonist. My guess is she's gonna bite it at the end. She's lived long enough. She's fine. Fair. But we will jump into news. The first one, very straightforward. We are going to talk. We still have a Star Wars Celebration episode planned. That's in the works. The big thing is from Star Wars Celebration, we got confirmation of the Bad Batch Season 2. We all knew it, but they didn't give us a date. And then, lo and behold, in pure Lucasfilm fashion, someone leaked the date on Disney Plus accidentally. So the first episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2 will be September 28th. Very exciting. We'll probably end up doing 2 or 3 episodes at a whack, so you won't be getting weekly episodes of The Bad Batch, because 20-minute episodes, there's
only so much you could talk about.
You need a little bit more substance. Big thing I am very excited for, Cam is also, but I think I am more excited, is this coming Wednesday as well. This coming Wednesday, as well as Kenobi Episode 4, is the first episode of Miss Marvel, Episode 1. People were nervous about this with the changing of her powers, and you can comment on this also, but everyone that has seen either the first 2 episodes or the entire series has said, oh my god, this is incredible. I am hyped. I don't know about you. I'm very excited.
I'm probably the Marvel guy in this podcast, I would say. Obviously, I'm both a Marvel and Star Wars guy as well as you are, but I would definitely say there's a reason you're leading the Star Wars episodes and I'm leading the Marvel episodes. So I'm very excited. I'm very nervous. And nothing about the show is just like time-wise, when am I going to fit in watching Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel?
That's my thing.
When are we going to fit in podcasting about both? It's going to be a pain, but we're going to figure it out for a couple weeks.
When are we going to do this? I was just thinking that. I'm like, this is so mean of them. Why couldn't they have done like Wednesday, Friday?
That would have been clutch. It's because I'm probably going to pick Obi-Wan over Miss Marvel just because like it's Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of thing, and I love Miss Marvel.
That's why I'm going to pick both. I will watch probably Kenobi in the morning to avoid spoilers.
I'm going to pick both, but yes. I'm going to watch Obi-Wan first in that.
Kenobi first, though, because it's been very interesting. People have not been spoiling Marvel on Twitter.
Since WandaVision.
Star Wars, instant spoiler.
Yeah,
like
that's why.
You wake up and you breathe in a spoiler.
Yeah, if I got spoiled on Miss Marvel, I'd be less upset than Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that's why
I agree. But yeah, I think this is the only Marvel character I probably have you beat on because I remember reading some of her comics when she first was released.
Oh, buddy, I have issue 1 through like 10 in my long box right now.
So,
yeah, we're good.
So
we're good.
I'm talking about back in, when was it, like 2012 or whatever?
2013.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. We're even then.
Yes.
And also the red carpet, Aman Vellani is just great.
Yeah, she had some good answers to some reporters' questions.
She had all the answers. And then my favorite thing, we have Percy Jackson casting news. They started recording season 1, episode 1 on the 2nd, so a few days ago, and we have new casting news outside of the big three. Virginia Knoll is playing Sally Jackson, Percy's mother. She is known for Boardwalk Empire, Big Little Lies, Mr. Mercedes, and NOS 4A2. I don't know what that is. My favorite casting in all of the Percy Jackson universe at this point is Jason Mantzoukas as Dionysus, Mr. D. He is also from Massachusetts.
I didn't know that.
Fun. He is from Massachusetts. He is Adrian Pimento in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He is the crazy ass perfume salesman in Parks and Rec.
Yep.
He is Derek in The Good Place. He is hilarious and chaotic, and he's actually 100% Greek as well.
Nice.
So that's just a fun thing. Another funny Parks and Rec casting from this, Megan Mullally is Mrs. Dodd's Electo. She's married to, what's his name? Ron Swanson in real life.
Nick Offerman.
She's married to Nick Offerman. She's Tammy 2 in Parks and Rec. But her real thing is she's very famous for Will and Grace.
Yep.
And quick others, Glenn Turman is Chiron. The Wire, House of Lies, Fargo, and then the last big casting is Tim Sharp as Gabe Ugliano, who's the evil stepfather. Coming together. It's really cool.
I'm excited for you, Cliff.
They are filming up in Vancouver, and I'm guessing we'll get more casting news as they film outside of the pilot.
Yeah.
But it is time, dun dun dun, it is time to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I really wish they just called it Kenobi. I think it sounds cooler.
I do too.
Because he's not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That he's Ben. Yeah, I agree with that.
And I do think, before we even start that, there was a really nice Reddit post that was, because like people aren't getting it. This is similar, I'm trying to think what this is similar to. This is similar though to the whole thing where it's like he's not who he was, and people didn't get that.
Right.
And a really good Reddit post was like, people don't get Obi-Wan Kenobi died on Mustafar as well. Obi-Wan having to kill his best friend and his brother killed the part of him too that's what made Obi-Wan great. Obi-Wan is always great, but in universe, thinking he killed Anakin killed himself.
Yeah.
And is now a shell of the man he was.
Right.
But we're going to jump into it. Only 5 points this time because there's only one episode. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Cam, you can lead us off with your number 5.
My first 3 are very, very simple.
So are mine. I'm guessing they're all the same. My
number 5 is the fight between Freck and Obi-Wan and the Stormtroopers. That was awesome. Especially where you had Tala coming in as like the double cross save the day rebel dressed as an Imperial officer. It was so metal when that stormtrooper just fell and just got cut in half by that laser beam fence. That was sick, and I think that set the tone for some of the brutality we see later in this episode, and we'll talk about that later as my number 3 point in a little bit. But I thought that whole thing was really cool. I thought Freck was an interesting character, reminds me of some certain people that are alive and well in the United States. So that was an interesting way to display that. I thought I'd never seen an Imperial bumper sticker before in the Star Wars universe, but we essentially got one. But it was very interesting because you just knew that Freck guy, like, he seemed like a funny character. He had a funny voice, but you're like, this guy's up to something, especially when he had that Imperial not sticker, but painted on the back of his car kind of thing, because he's a big supporter of the good old Empire.
Shout out to Zach Braff for voicing him. Yes. I'm not. I don't think I'm going to talk about Freck, so I will get it in now. Great. It was great because you were like, oh, he's haha silly little minor guy, minor mole man, and then it's like, oh, he's a villain.
Yeah, he's not a nice person,
and it's very interesting. So I have a Star Wars take tweeted this, and it said Freck is unironically one of the best Star Wars minor villains because he's such an accurate reflection of our world. He serves an empire that has no care for him, all because he believes order must be maintained, even at the expense of other people's lives and freedom. And absolutely, because people like, I mean, if you're as psychotic with Star Wars as we are, you know that they like. The Star Wars universe under the Empire is extremely racist towards the alien races.
Right.
And you know that the stormtroopers tolerate him because he does what they want. But as soon as he did something wrong, it'd be game over for him.
Right.
But yeah, you bring up a very good point. I was like, ooh, this is a recent history. This is something from only a couple months ago. Good on
Star
them.
Wars has and always will be political and political commentary. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's what it is.
Great. My number 5 is deep, but not at the same time. Unless you have anything else to add.
Nope.
Yeah.
I just thought that fight was really cool.
Good.
I love that Obi-Wan's using blasters again, even though he said they were so uncivilized. I think in episode 2 or 3, one of those.
And the stormtrooper that got cut in half had the high ground.
Yes, he did. He did have the high ground.
And it didn't work because Obi-Wan was the master of the whole high ground. Some things never change. My number 5 is one of the best jump scares in all of Star Wars. And it's Jedi Anakin haunting Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I don't know why, like the shot of Anakin of Hayden just in his Jedi robe and everything, just staring at him with this evil look on his face, with the older Anakin look. I don't know, it was just haunting, and it's also says so much more because Obi-Wan for his entire life the past 10 years has definitely seen Anakin everywhere he's gone. Just like staring him down because he failed him. And the shot was just beautiful. And also I was like, oh my god, it's Anakin. Like, what the heck? And I don't know, like it's just something like pokes me like, just remember this scene. Just keep it running. And this is actually the scene I keep going back to for this episode. And it's only 5 seconds, but like the way Hayden and Ewan act this out separately is just perfect.
Yeah, I didn't have this one because I figured it was gonna be on your list, so I was like, I know I'll talk about it when Cliff brings it up, hopefully, and luckily you did.
There we go. Right off the bat.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. It's interesting because like I know Anakin is not a Force ghost in this situation, but it's just funny because like Obi-Wan keeps seeing. You have to assume that this isn't the first time he's seen Anakin like this kind of thing in like his mind's eye, but he's like desperately keeps calling for Qui-Gon to come to him as like a Force ghost, and he can't get Qui-Gon, but he's getting his past haunting him, which I thought is just a really cool, interesting dichotomy. Obviously, like I said, I know Anakin's not a Force ghost in this situation, so it's different to see him versus Qui-Gon, but just interesting of like how badly Obi-Wan wants to be connected with his past through his present with the Force ghost presence of Qui-Gon Jinn, but keeps getting haunted by Anakin and his mistake, especially now that he knows he's alive after the third sister told him.
Someone said on Twitter, and it broke my heart, do you think Obi-Wan thinks Qui-Gon isn't talking to him because he failed him?
No, I don't think so. Because he talks to him in the Clone Wars.
It's just so heartbreaking. Yeah, but he hasn't failed Qui-Gon yet.
That's fair.
He failed Anakin after that. Very heartbreaking.
That's fair.
But I will say quickly, there was a piece of news that we forgot. Technically, supposedly, a season 2 of Kenobi is in the works.
I
But
haven't seen that from
but
any good reputable source, so like I'm not
but
buying
I
it till
want
I
to.
get
I'm
it.
just putting it out. But they're saying they don't know if they're going to market it as a season 2 or a completely new miniseries. I
Yeah,
believe it.
I don't buy
I
it until I
believe
see
it
an official.
because Ewan and Hayden were both talking a lot like there was going to be a season 2, or
I hope
whatever it's
so.
going to be. Hayden seems very excited to continue playing Darth Vader.
Yeah, I definitely hope so.
So just bring the Darth Vader comics to canon. Who cares, or to live action? Who cares? But you're number 4.
So my number 4 is finding out that Quinlan Voss was alive. I thought that was really
Same.
cool.
That's mine too.
For number 4,
That's my number 4 too.
I
God
love
damn it.
I love Obi-Wan's reaction because this is the only other Jedi that he has a personal relationship that he knows is alive besides Yoda. Obviously episode 1 or part 1 or part 2, I forget which one it was. He like met that guy and he told him like, nope, my name's Ben now. I'm not a Jedi. Like you need to go into hiding, bury your lightsaber. You're better off like that. But he didn't seem to know that guy. He knows who's Quinlan Voss is. So the fact that Quinlan Voss is in like this underground Jedi Protective Services ring basically is really, really cool. And Cliff, I like the point that you brought up of what if Quinlan Voss, now that we know he's alive, because he was in that cave area there and he wrote that message, how cool it would be if he did in fact was the one that saved Grogu and helped some of the other youngling get out. Maybe he was the one that maybe saved Reva and then Reva was taken by Vader. I don't know. I think there's a cool way to connect that there. Like you mentioned too, Cliff, there is an actor who looks like he could play a live action version of Quinlan Voss, who is an unnamed credit right now on the show. So I feel like I feel like we're gonna get Qui-Gon. I feel like we're gonna get Quinlan Voss. Like I'm more positive on the Qui-Gon than I am on Quinlan. But
Well, we're definitely they've slapped us in the face with Qui-Gon being in this episode, at least in one episode at the end.
yeah, so I that was really cool, and I love learning which Jedi's survived Order 66. So the fact that we're getting more and more and more through this show is just awesome because there's so many ways you can spin that into spin-off series if you wanted to. You could do this whole Underground Protective Services thing starring Quinlan Voss if you wanted to as like a mini series or yeah, it was cool. It's just cool to learn that another Jedi's alive.
Yes, and for people that want to know, it's O'Shea Jackson Jr., who is the speculation for Quinlan Voss. He is Ice Cube in Straight Outta Compton. Then he's just been in like Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and a few other things. Supposedly, I'm seeing this. The IMDb is obviously not always accurate because it's like Wikipedia. It's updated as stuff is released. Supposedly, he's going to be in the last 3 episodes, so he should be in Friday's episode. It actually wouldn't be surprising if that's who's there to help.
Wednesday's episode.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Wednesday's episode. So that would be interesting. So yeah, Quinlan Voss is such a cool Jedi.
Yeah.
And he comes from one of like the stupidest things possible, and he actually kind of becomes something because of the EU. People saw this weird character just sitting in Tatooine, and then they ended up retconning him to be a Jedi undercover in one of the novels, and Lucasfilm ran with it when they were doing live action stuff. The Clone Wars episode of him was very good, as he helps Obi-Wan fight Cad Bane, and he also has ties to Ventress through, I believe it's the Ventress novel.
Yeah, I really want to read it. Dark Disciple, I believe it's what it's called. I really want to read that book.
And I don't want to spoil anything for you then. Let's just say that Ventress makes him promise something, and people think that that's what his drive is right now, to continue to help, even after everything has fallen apart. Very cool character, very powerful character, and has one of the coolest Force powers. He actually has what Cal Kestis has. He can touch something and see the past of an object,
which is really cool.
One of the coolest Force powers, in my opinion. And I hope we see him in live action. And I also will say, this is kind of correct. I like it on both sides, and I like this from the artistic standpoint more than the fanboy in me standpoint, where someone said this Quinlan Voss name drop was one of the best cameos Star Wars has done under Disney, because it was such a genuine reaction of like Obi-Wan being happy to see the name and feel you can tell that they had a connection prior. Yeah. And someone was like, it's really nice because in this situation it didn't feel like forced. Like it didn't be like, oh, here's the Mandalorian. Now we're not going to see the Mandalorian for 2 episodes. Here's Luke Skywalker.
Right.
And I love, as a fanboy, I love that. But that takes away from it being the Mandalorian. Obviously, it's Grogu's story as well. But artistically, I like how it's focusing on Obi-Wan and just like showing the pain of everything. And
For
then like
sure.
seeing Quinlan gives him some hope.
Yeah, that this can be done, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Obviously, I hope gets nipped
I
in the
do.
butt at the
Well,
end.
that's the
But
thing. Now I hope we see him, but the way they introduce it is a lot better than like boom, big thing.
yeah,
So
can I combine my 3 and 2 together?
yeah, why not?
Okay.
Why not?
My number 3 is the brutality of Darth Vader. We see how brutal and menacing he can be at the end of Rogue One in that lightsaber scene. This was taken on a whole different level, but still very scary. Like, Darth Vader is a problem, and we knew that. I feel like I don't know about you, Cliff. I feel like I got cheated on how big and bad Darth Vader was as a child because Star Wars had been out for like 20 something years at that point. So like I knew Luke, I am your father, even though that's not the line, but that's what we were all told it was as a
No,
kid.
I am your father.
So like I knew he'd turned to the good side. Like I knew all this stuff. Like I was watching the prequel, so I knew all the backstory. But like even that, so like I feel like I got to, like I was never scared of Vader watching Episode 4. Like people who were my age when I watched it for the first time probably were, because I knew what was going to happen before I even watched it, essentially. But this is just cool because like this is where I'm like, oh my god, yeah, like Darth Vader really is a problem. That slow, menacing he walks as he's stalking and trying to find Obi-Wan. The scene with the poor villagers on that planet is just he pulls that dad out, he snaps that little kid's neck. Like that was some brutality I don't think we've ever seen in Star Wars, honestly. Like I know Anakin goes and kills the younglings, but like you don't really see that. You just see the lightsaber ignite, and then you kind of see a little bit in like that little hologram kind of thing that I think Yoda shows Obi-Wan. But like this is like a whole different thing where he just flick of the wrist, that kid's neck is completely snapped and he's dead. Like unbelievable.
D-E-A-D, dead. We haven't said one of those in a while.
That was really cool. With that, my number 2, specifically going with the brutality of Darth Vader, is the lightsaber duel between Vader and between Obi-Wan. The power. I mean, we see like Vader just F people up in Rogue One, right? But those aren't Jedi. Those aren't Force users. Like, it's easy for him to kill those soldiers with the whip of his lightsaber and just a flick of the wrist, basically. He's going up against a trained Jedi Master, so it's definitely more difficult than going up against some rebel soldiers on the Tantive 4. But he is owning Obi-Wan in this situation. Obi-Wan hasn't had to use the lightsaber in like 10 years or whatever the gap has been. Obi-Wan is struggling. He's like sweating profusely during this, trying to make sure he can stay alive, essentially, while Vader's just one hand just blocking everything. He's on the attack with this one hand, like just bash and go kind of thing. It was really cool, and like was the best lightsaber fight ever? No, but it was a great storytelling wise to show the brutality of Vader. And even though we know Obi-Wan is strong as hell at this point because he is a Jedi Master, even though he hasn't had to really use like a lightsaber in the last 10 years, it shows how much more powerful Vader is. So this is really cool that they had this duel. I hope there's another one. I think this is going to be the one that we're going to get with Vader for the duel. I think the next time Obi-Wan uses the lightsaber is going to be against the third sister, Reva. But it's still just so cool to... One of my favorite lightsaber scenes of all time is Episode 7 between Kylo and Rey, and I think I like it because like the dark like colors because it was nighttime. Like this was so cool just to have. Basically, the only lights here was the red of Vader's saber and the blue of Obi-Wan's saber. So that's my 3 and 2, is the brutality of Vader from number 3, and then specifically the brutality in that lightsaber duel between Vader and Obi-Wan was really, really cool.
All right, I'll do my 3 and 2 also. Vader will be my number 2, but my number 3 is the Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm.
And not for the reason...
They hate each other.
And not for the reason that, like, oh, they're so badass. No, they all suck. In, like, the best ways possible.
In the best ways, yeah.
It's so funny because this is why, and Vader hating the Inquisitors makes even more sense now. Because the Sith can never truly succeed because they eat each other alive.
Right.
All they care about is their power. All they care about is their position. And it is hilarious. They're a bunch of children. They are a bunch of like lame children that just happen to be endowed with this powerful dark side power. And it's always interesting because I always go back to the Yoda quote in episode 5 when Luke asks Yoda and goes, "Is the dark side stronger?" And Yoda goes, "No, no, it's not." And it's interesting. I think my take on it, as just someone that has grown up with Star Wars, is the light side is more powerful,
Right.
or the light side is strong. The light side is stronger, but the dark side lets you harness more raw power.
Right.
Like, light will always beat the dark, but with the ways of the Sith, you get the unnaturally strong ability, but you gain many weaknesses in other ways.
Right.
And that's always the interesting thing, because like all these Inquisitors have this immense power, but they lack in so many other ways. That's why Ahsoka easily handles 2 Inquisitors at once. Like,
Right.
it goes like even Maul, who has a different version of the dark side towards the end of his life in Rebels, just has so much more brute power in other ways from what he's done outside of that. When you're just the dark side, there's so much room to fail.
Right.
And that was something. And just like the battle between the 5th brother, I think I love the way they did the 5th brother. That's my biggest surprise. That's my biggest surprise for Kenobi. I thought they were going to butcher the 5th brother, just from like the initial pictures, but no, I really like his portrayal. His voice seems forced, but that's the thing. They're all playing this weird part. They're all playing a bit to be this new dark side wielder. That's it. That's what people don't get. Like, they're supposed to be these oddly too extreme caricatures. That's the whole point of the Inquisitors, because they're literally under the fist of Vader and the Emperor,
and they want to be Vader's like minion, basically.
Pretty much, they're all they're all riding him for that power, and he hates them. He can't stand them, but he does get a little bit something. He pretty much tells Reva, if you succeed, I'll trust you, but fail and I'll kill you. And that obviously is a direct correlation to Jedi Fallen Order, which is what happens to Trilla. And the creators, or one of the writers on Kenobi, said, "We do take into account canon. Everything that has been put down is canon." And I want to be like, wow, I am so shocked right now.
Right.
I am so shocked that people can't wait 1 week at a time to get new information.
Right.
Thank you,
Just
Netflix.
let it go. It's gonna be fine, everybody.
Thank you, Netflix, for the everything at once, give me all the answers at once model. My number 2 is Vader. Just Vader as a whole. And wow. Because that's the thing. You said, like, we didn't get the Vader. We didn't get the hype and scare. Well, I got the hype of Vader. The scariness of Vader.
Right.
And wow, that just metal. Like, I am shocked. I am flabbergasted by how much Disney let them do. Like, snapping the kid's neck. I was like,
I can't believe they showed that on Disney Plus. Like, I was wild.
I had to rewind. I'm like, did they just? Oh, they did. I was shocked. I'm like, how did they let him get away with this? And I love it. I'm so happy they did.
Yeah.
Because my issue is, I was someone, and I still am at times. I still am someone that believes that Anakin and Vader are 2 different people, and I'm like, oh no, but it's more Vader's a twisted version of Anakin.
Right.
Like, he's such a farly corrupted one. And it's, what's the best way to say this? Like, you can tell Hayden's in the suit, and I think that adds a lot to it, because it adds more of the Anakin value to Vader.
Right.
Because, like, Hayden Christensen has the Anakin strut down, and he really had the strut for Vader as well, and it felt like Anakin inside the suit this time, which was really nice.
Right.
And if people remember, if they go back to the original trilogy, Vader's very preachy. He's like very gospel-y, like dark side preachy.
Yeah, with the Force
and everything. And you can just tell his anger is so immense here that he's talking like Anakin. Like, you are what you made me. That is Anakin Skywalker talking to Obi-Wan. And that's, I think, finally, like, let me see a little bit, like, no, they're the same. Vader just plays this part to make himself even more like this high and mighty, powerful thing.
Right.
Where against Obi-Wan, it's all his raw emotion, being Anakin, finally getting back at the person that ruined his life. Because he thinks, he still is going on thinking, he helped kill Padme, he took her away, blah, blah, blah. And My number one is going to be the fight, so I will let you let
Do you want to go with it?
number
Because I
one.
already talked about it, and I'll do my number one after you.
Sure,
Because
let's
mine
do
is
that.
not the fight.
So we're just going and going. So my number one is the fight because this is what it should be. I do want to kind of think of how it kind of works with A New Hope, and it's probably going to be Vader's just pissed that Obi-Wan outsmarts him one last time in this series. Because let's be honest, Vader let Obi-Wan escape because it's not. Vader can play the long con because Vader wants to make Obi-Wan's suffering as immense as possible.
Right.
And he knows that Obi-Wan's going to escape. He's going to track him to a new planet. And then everyone that Vader slaughters on that planet is also going to be on Obi-Wan's conscience.
Right.
So this is the thing. Obi-Wan didn't escape Vader. Vader let him escape. Right. He's letting him, because Vader wants to chase him and punish him more and more. What a great parallel, though, for the fight. It was the opposite of Mustafar.
Right.
Where it was just incredible. I like the fire, and the thing is, Obi-Wan's not Obi-Wan anymore. Obi-Wan hasn't turned his lightsaber's been buried for 10 years. He's been cut off from the Force like Kanan was for a decade. And probably even worse, because Obi-Wan's whole life, Kanan's was also, but Obi-Wan was a Jedi Master. The amount of Force power that was flowing through him was immense, and that was just gone. And finally, Leia helped him turn the light back on. I love when people explain how they feel the Force.
I'm not going to talk about that.
I know. I was kind of figuring, I'm like, what could be Cam's number one? I'm like, I think it's the Force thing. And they do a great job in the High Republic series about what the Force feels like.
Cliff, just shut up.
I know.
Just shut up. I got it, buddy. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
And Obi-Wan's so out of touch with it. We know he fixes this between now and A New Hope. He becomes much more like and we see because he beats Maul in 2 swings. Like, we know that there's a time where Obi-Wan realizes I can be Ben Kenobi while also still holding parts of Obi-Wan.
And it's probably this is the moment.
I think this is probably the moment. And just the fight was great because it is the wake-up call. And luckily he didn't die. Well, I don't think he would have let him die, but he would have just continuously tortured him forever. But just like the scare, the survival instincts on Obi-Wan just weren't there, and he was fighting for his life.
Yeah.
So that was my number one. And will we get another fight scene? Probably not. I think I think we're gonna get a better Vader rampage than Rogue One. That's hard to beat. But I think we're gonna see overpowered Vader just annihilate an entire Rebel force. I think cool. the All I Sense is Fear and Dead Men comic panel. I think we're gonna get something like that.
Yeah.
Where they help Obi-Wan and Leia escape. That's gonna be my bet. I don't think we get another fight scene because this would be the perfect one because it's not really a fight.
Right. My number one, Cliff already started talking about it, but my number one is the discussion of the Force. And I really thought this whole weekend when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh no, it's gonna be the fight. It's gonna be the fight. And then the more I kept thinking about it, is no, it's that Force conversation. Just as a recap, I know everybody's watching it, but I don't care. I'm gonna say it again because I love the quote. Leia asks Obi-Wan, how does the Force work? How do you use it? And Obi-Wan says, have you ever been afraid of the dark? Leia shakes her head yes. And he asks, okay, how does it feel to turn on the light? And she goes, I feel safe, which is just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And he says, yes, it feels like that. Just so simple. So I like this because, like you mentioned, Cliff, the High Republic has put it really in canon now, that each Force user senses and quote-unquote sees the Force in different ways. So for Avar Krish, she sees it as a song. For Elzar Man, he sees it as an endless brewing storm. For my guy Buryaga,
Elzar sees it as a never-ending ocean. It's
ocean. Sorry,
endless ocean.
Sorry, not a storm. For my guy Buryaga, he sees himself as a single leaf on this strong and mighty tree.
Such a lucky thing.
And that's all. And that's all interconnected. So they feel and see and sense the Force in different ways. So I love, like I said, Avar Krish, sensing it as a song, and everybody's song is connected into this one melody. For Obi-Wan, he sees it as turning on the light and feeling safe and comforted, being not afraid of the dark. That was just awesome, and I like that they were able to incorporate that because it's such a good way. Like, Leia clearly understands what he means because it's brought in such like a childlike way that anyone can understand what he means by that, but that's how he senses and feels the Force, and that was great. So that was my number one because, again, it made me think of the High Republic. I don't think I've shut up about the High Republic on this podcast. I know you haven't either, Cliff. Like, we've been all big on these books since this project was announced 2 years ago, basically, and since we started getting the books in 2021. So this was really, really great, and that was awesome to see. I have one honorable mention.
Go ahead.
Obi-Wan talking about the barely little bit that he remembers of his family. He remembers, like, I think his dad's beard, his mom's shawl or scarf or something like that, and like he remembers, he's like, I think there was a baby, like I might have had a brother. Like, that was cool. Especially because we know Leia has a brother.
His father's hands.
But like, does Leia at all remember, like, for a brief second, that she might have a brother? Like, does that put a little inkling in her head? Maybe, I don't know. It's tough to say, obviously, because we don't know. But that was just an honorable mention I wanted to say.
Yes. I know. I like how Avar sees it as a song. I think that's very clever. It also has deeper implications for High Republic powers that we won't dive into that. My end question is, how do you think you would see the Force?
Oh God, I don't know. I think like a bunch of books in a library or something like that. Probably.
That's a good one.
I came up on the spot. I didn't.
One.
I honestly didn't think about that. That's probably how I would see it. I think is just endless like books with knowledge, and like each person fills this up. Each person is a book with different knowledge, life experiences. This is, holy crap, this is like the most profound thing I think I've ever said.
Get Kevin Scott on the line.
Kevin, I got a profound way to think of the Force. Holy crap. Yeah, like everybody's book, everybody has their own story, right? And they're all in this big library, and together this library tells the story of the world. This was the most profound thing I've said in my life.
Oh my God.
I'm going to clip this. I'm going to send this to Kevin Scott and be like, hey, listen, I know you probably can't take recommendations. Like, I will write off, this is my idea of the Force, just for like a little like shadow in the like, thanks to these people and the acknowledgements.
Yeah, I think on my side, I follow the Elzar Man path a lot better with that, where it's a deep, endless ocean where you can easily get overcome and drown in it, but you can bend it to your will as well if it needs to be. I really like the ocean because it really speaks to me on like. I'm sorry, I'm just dig so deep. I know you're just so proud of
that. Was profound.
So proud
that's the smartest thing I've said in this podcast. 120 something episodes in, I think. Like, that was the smartest thing I've said.
There we go. He did it.
All right, let's wrap it up before I get ahead of myself and say something stupid.
Can wrap it up. So that's it for Obi-Wan episode 3. Episode 4 will be this week as well. Oh, hopefully you're gonna get both. Hopefully this week. Fingers crossed.
Yes. We should get both. We should
get both. But Cam, where can they find you, and where can they find the podcast?
You can find me on Twitter at CamRamos95. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Stream the Mouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Streaming with the Mouse. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and our YouTube channel. Just search for Streaming with the Mouse podcast, Disney Plus. Along those lines, you'll get that there. Please make sure to rate, review, 5-star, subscribe, all the above to these podcasts so we can get more ears on this podcast, especially while we're getting into the second half of Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as getting into the beginning of Miss Marvel, a brand new hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So really exciting stuff coming up that we want you to listen to, tell your friends about this, and we want other people to listen to it as well. Cliff, where can I find you?
You can find me at CPRobinson81. So that's it for this week. For Cam Ramos, my name is Clifton Paul Robinson. We're signing off. We'll see you later this week for episode 4. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.